What a great concept, being hunted by somebody who's exactly like you in almost every way, staring into a dark mirror. Great concept, but you know, I have to admit, it doesn't really sound all that scary to me. I mean, my doppelganger would probably just get tired after 30 seconds of chasing me and want to take a nap. You know, now that I think about that, that is a pretty scary mirror to look into. Speaking of mirrors you shouldn't compare things to, is this the point where we stop comparing Jordan Peele to Hitchcock or Serling or anybody else? He's his own person. He's his own filmmaker. He's his own genius. I mean, how many comedic performers made the successful transition to horror director? And even if you could come up with a list, how many of those comedic performers turned horror directors also wrote the movies as well? That unconventional yet extremely successful comedic cinematic background actually comes out a little more in the flavor of Us compared to Get Out. But you know what? This happens quite often. In the sophomore film of a director, they typically bring out more of who they are. Maybe it's because they believe in themselves a little bit more, I don't know, but the fact is typically they do aim a little bit bigger and a little higher. In Us, Peele did a lot of things bigger than he did with Get Out, but out of all of the aspects that he did a little bit bigger, the one thing that I really appreciated was Peele going back to his comedic roots. I love comedy and horror paired together, simply because it's just such an amazing experience. It's just a great ride when it comes to watching a movie that can mix the two. There are just too few filmmakers out there who can pull horror and comedy off successfully. And I say that successfully because the ones who can pull it off are the ones who realize that comedy and horror are pretty much identical. I've said it before, both are about the circumvention of expectations. You set something up and then you give the audience the unexpected. Sometimes it's laughs, sometimes it's scares. The most unexpected laughs comes from Winston Duke, and not because the man's not a brilliant performer, but because, like many of you, I've only really seen him in Black Panther. But Jordan Peele says after this performance, you will no longer see Duke as M'Baku, and Peele is absolutely right. Duke channels Peele's trademark sense of humor. He wears his horn-rimmed glasses and becomes that awkward father that tries too hard. He's that character in a horror movie that says exactly what the audience is thinking. I love that. And he's my new favorite cinematic patriarch. He is, in fact, Us's for the win. And even though this is a Peele piece and the humor wasn't completely unexpected, I appreciate it even more simply because it created such a great sense of balance within the story. It actually made the film stronger. Because as much as certain aspects of the film were bigger than Get Out, some of them were also very difficult to find. For me, the hardest thing to find in Us was actually the scares. Now, that may not be completely unexpected for a lot of people who are familiar with Jordan Peele's Get Out, because much like Get Out, it's much more unsettling than it is scary. However, the scares that he tried to introduce in Us were predictable. They were almost a trope. They played it safe and it felt like you've really seen them before. I just expected a little bit more considering what I saw in the trailer. But what I've learned about Jordan Peele in only 2 films is really the truly scary thing about his movies is the commentary, what he shows us about us. And one thing I will say is it's not lost on this Canadian critic that every time I wrote Us speaking about the movie, I was thinking US, as in United States. Before you freak out and possibly prove my point, Jordan at South by Southwest even said, it's about America. But as much as Jordan Peele may say it's specifically about America, the sad truth is many Western cultures can understand the underlying allegory that we fear the other too much, that prejudice is once again becoming socially acceptable for some reason, and that truly we are the real monsters. This allegory permeates the entire film, but what Peele does brilliantly is that it's not just about when the doppelgangers show up that he's showing us our monstrous tendencies. It's about what's not said directly by a homicidal maniac. It's about what's in between the scares that shows us what our tendencies are. And the fact is, even our heroes or protagonists or victims really aren't good people either. And brilliantly, subtly, they really do reflect our bad behavior because most of the time you take their bad behavior for granted. Peele shows the good characters in this situation to be petty, competitive, manipulative, purposefully hurtful, and privileged. And that's just the good side. The bad side, being those doppelgangers, are animalistic, hate-filled, violent, and oh my god, this does sound like America. As you can imagine, the concept really wouldn't get off the ground if the cast itself couldn't first grounded. Much like Daniel Kaluuya in Get Out, Peele not only cast strong, but depended on the strong work of his lead actor. And Nyong'o gives a wild performance, some brilliant character work, and really grounds this film, even though the concept is insane. But without her performance, without grounding this, without being the rock in this universe, the concept would just seem too insane, and you wouldn't accept it. There are, I will admit, some plot holes, some loose threads that if you dig too deeply or start to tug at those threads, the film kind of could maybe unravel. But you know what, much like Get Out, you just need to accept certain things at face value. Don't look into it too much. Just accept an awesome film. Don't ruin it, don't overthink it, don't be me. Us is really the complete package. It's intelligent, it's interesting, it's layered, it has brilliant performances from its entire large cast, it has a beautiful and intense score. It really just cements Peele as one of the greatest creative minds of 21st century filmmaking. And while it may, yes, have a couple holes that you shouldn't look into, the fact is, it shows that this sophomore effort is no slump. It is an earn it. Poll question: what other actor, director, or filmmaker do you know can also do comedy and horror? As always, leave your answer in the comments section below. Stay tuned for all of my coverage from South by Southwest. There's some amazing videos coming up, so you need to subscribe if you haven't done so already. But until then, and until next time, school's out. Hey Real students, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to Real School, click that round Real School logo right beside me. Also click that damn notification bell so you're aware of all of Real School's new content. You can follow me on Twitter, and of course, if you get anything out of Real School, you can always give a little back. Just click the link in the description below or the button down there, and you can become part of my Patreon team.